Episode 4, Superheroes Stand Up for God because God has a plan. So far throughout VBS, the kids have learned that God is powerful, God is real, God loves them so very much. And now they're going to learn that God has a plan. The first 2 days we learned about Elijah. We took a quick break and we really studied the best superhero of all time, Jesus. Now we're back on Elijah. When we last left Elijah, he had just had an actual mountaintop experience. God came and showed how powerful he was and how real he was in a very tangible and visible way. And I'm sure he probably thought this was going to be the end. He'd finally won. Now people would be worshiping God. But as we read in 1 Kings, that is not what happened. In fact, Jezebel was very angry and started to hunt down Elijah. This is where Elijah starts to have those doubts. And this is a great thing, a great opportunity for us to teach these kids, even when I don't understand what God's plan is, even when things don't go the way I planned, I can trust that God has a plan and his plans are always good. And that is what we get to teach these kids today. Episode 3, Activity 1 is called The Effect of the Wind. So what we do in this activity is you're going to have your students create airplanes, paper airplanes, something that they will absolutely love to do. And quite honestly, we had a blast making the best airplane as well. You'll give them a few minutes once they've built their airplanes to test them and fly them as far as they can. Go ahead, guys. Okay, so they're going to fly them and see how far they can go. Then they will retrieve their airplanes. Go ahead and retrieve your airplanes. And we're going to do this again, but this time I'm going to use this to create a big wind that's going to alter the path of those airplanes. So let's try that again. Okay, who's going to go first?
Ladies first.
All right, come on, Tiffany. Here we go.
All right.
Go for it. They went in a completely different direction. All right, here we go. Denied. All right, so when you do this, it's the same as if you have a big fan or something like that. I just have a big piece of foam that I'm creating a big gust of wind, and it clearly alters the path of their airplane. So then you can say, well, what made your airplane change direction?
The wind.
The wind, but you can't see the wind, so how do you know that it's there?
You can see its effects.
There you go. You can see the effect of the wind. In the same way, we can't see God with our eyes, but we know he's there because we can see what he does. And in Elijah's story that we're going to learn today, he could see God doing all these things all around him, but then all of a sudden it got quiet. And he didn't know if God was still there or not, but the truth is that God is always there. Even the air, even when we don't feel the breeze moving, we know that the air is there because we can still breathe. And the same is true with God. We know that he is always there, even if we can't feel him, if we can't perceive him, because he is the one who gives us life. We can trust that God has a good plan. Activity 2 is a fun game where the kids are going to walk around a circle. It's like musical chairs, but it's going to be musical color squares. So on the ground, you're going to have an equal amount of red and blue paper squares that the kids will walk around. When the music plays, they'll just move around. As soon as it stops, they have to stop on a color, and then I will randomly call out a color, red or blue. Everyone standing on that color will be out, and then I'll remove an equal number of red and blue, and we'll play again, just like musical chairs, but with a little bit of a twist. Okay, so let's try it. I have some people here who are going to help me out, and I'm going to start the music. So start walking. Music stopped. Okay, and I'm going to randomly pick blue. All right, so if you are on a blue square, you're out. Go ahead and go to the side. Okay. Good job, guys. Now, because I still have to pick between red and blue, I'm going to remove an equal amount of red and blue squares. So now there's only 2 left and there's 2 people. So it's really probably going to be best if the person choosing red or blue has their back turned to the group so nobody feels like you purposefully chose for me to lose, you know. Okay, so we're going to do this for the final one. And go. Okay, stop. And I pick red. Who's on red? All right, sorry. Okay, so Jace is the winner. So the connection for activity 2 is that at the end of that game, there was only one person left standing. You know, Elijah felt like he was all alone. After all, he was the only prophet of God who was standing on the mountain of Mount Carmel. And he thought maybe after God showed up in such a huge way like he did, that he wouldn't have to be alone anymore. But even though things did not go the way Elijah planned, God has a plan, and he was always with Elijah. Now, activity 3 is a game called Sounds Like. And for that game, you're going to have a stack of cards where you have pre-written all of these different sounds. For instance, this one says rain, thunder, jet engine, all these different sounds. And you'll give them to your class. And you're going to play this game a lot like charades. So in 2 teams, one person gets up at the front and sees how fast their team can guess what sound they're trying to make. So that person will just quickly try and make the sound of rain, you know, pitter patter or whatever. Thunder, boom! See if they can get their team to guess what sound they're trying to make. And then you make the connection, you say, hey, these are all pretty popular sounds, and as soon as you know them, as soon as you hear them, you know exactly what they meant, exactly what they were. Well, can you imagine what God would sound like? Today we're going to learn that God spoke to Elijah, but not in a way that he would expect. Elijah had seen God do big things, and so therefore he expected God to speak in a big, loud way. But that's not what God did. God does not always do what we expect, but we can trust that his plans are good. In activity 4, you're going to encourage the kids to make a plan. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to give them all cards and give them each a different superpower. And then you're going to put them in small groups. So if I have a group of 3, I'm going to give them the superpower of flight, freeze breath, and super strength. Now, this team has to come up with a plan to stop the phantom from getting all of the animals out of the zoo, okay? So with super strength, freeze breath, and flight, how are you going to do that? And let the kids imagine things, create a story, come up with a plan to capture the phantom and get all the animals to be safe in the zoo. It's just a fun thing to think about. Then you make the connection and say, you know, it was kind of hard to come up with a plan that would work, right? Well, God always has a plan. Even when we don't understand what he's doing, he has a plan. In fact, God made a plan to save you and me, and that's an easy transition into the gospel story. Again, one last time before they leave. This next activity is called Wind, Fire, Earthquake, Whisper, and it's super fun. It's very easy. Now, you'll have 4 different categories that you're going to call out during this game. To make it easier for kids to remember what they're supposed to do when you call out each category, it's a good idea to go ahead and write your instructions on the board, because it's a lot to remember for kids in 1st through 3rd grades, especially going into 1st through 3rd grades. Now, I don't have music with me, so I'm just going to say ready, go, and then I'm going to say stop, and I will call out one of these 4 things. I have a few friends who are going to help me, okay? So ready, go. You just have to walk around or dance around in the area. I'm not going to make you dance, you walk around. There you go. And stop. I'm going to call fire, so you have to jump around like the floor is hot. Nice. Okay, and go. You can walk around. Walk around. And stop. I'm going to say whisper. So you have to kneel down and make praying hands. Good. Okay, and go. All right, good. They're going to walk around. And earthquake. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Nice. Okay, and go. Walk around, walk around. And our last one is wind. Act like you're being blown away. Whoa, okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Stop. You know, in today's Bible story, in the Bible, Elijah went to hear from God. And an earthquake came and God wasn't in the earthquake. Wind came, really big, strong wind, and God wasn't in the wind. A big fire came, and that was really strong, but God wasn't in the fire either. God came to Elijah in a quiet place, in a whisper. And that is what's powerful. Even though there were all these other things that looked powerful, what was really powerful was God. Even when things don't happen the way you expect them to, God has a plan. For the mission moment today, you're going to get your group into small teams of 10 or 11 people each. Each group will have their own set of note cards. Show the kids beforehand what you're going to build with those note cards. Show them that it's going to be a flower. This is one suggestion of how to do that flower with 11 note cards. okay? Now, what you'll do is on your mark, you say on your mark, get set, go, and the kids go down one at a time, relay style, to put their note card on the floor and hopefully build a flower. Once they're done with this, you make the connection and say, we all love having a beautiful place to go to school. One of the things that Loving Kids does is they make beautiful grounds for the kids. They help fix the playgrounds and make even the gardens pretty for those kids.